Well, howdy. Howdy and welcome to the San Antonio Family Association's presentation on Proposition A. My name is Patrick Von Dolan with San Antonio Family Association, and I want to welcome you to the Christopher Hall at St. Mark's Parish grounds. And the Christopher Hall is leased and operated by the Knights of Columbus Council 7613. You can find out more information about renting this great hall at ChristopherHall.org. ChristopherHall.org. Is that right, Gary? ChristopherHall.org?
Yes, sir. That's
all right. So, great venue for having your events. So again, my name is Patrick Von Dolan. On behalf of the San Antonio Family Association, I want to welcome you to our educational seminar on Proposition A and how it relates to the Ten Commandments. And what I'd like to do is, if we could, acknowledge the fact that San Antonio is a Christian city.
Yep.
It was June 13th, 1691, when the first Mass was celebrated on the banks of the San Antonio River. That planted the seed of faith here in San Antonio. That river, obviously San Antonio de Valero, and that planted the seed of faith here. That seed germinated, on May 1st, 1718. San Antonio became an official municipality, incorporated, and we are now at 305 years old here in just a few days. And we've seen a lot of changes in the city of San Antonio in 305 years, from being a Christian city to an outright attempt to remove God from government, to corrupt our children, to tear down the family, and break down marriages. We've seen this from a government standpoint. And the first time it happened, an official act by the city of San Antonio on September 15th, 2011, when the city passed the 2012 budget. It included three things that made it an official mark on the city of San Antonio. The funding of unemployment pregnancy services, we know, are abortion-related, code word for abortion-related. The second is the increased funding of twisted arts through the arts, culture of arts. And third was domestic partner benefits. The first official act for the city of San Antonio to undermine marriage between a man and a woman, promoting cohabitation. And so we've seen a moral degradation of our city ever since then. And now the snowball effect is in play, and it is exponentially growing. So I want to welcome you again. For more information, you go to sanantoniofamilyassociation.com/prop, as in proposition. You can find out all the information online about this matter. It was presented as a justice policy. We call it an unjust justice policy. We fought its inclusion on the May 6th municipal ballot. And despite our collective attempts to keep it from being on the ballot, the Supreme Court ruled that they were not going to interrupt the political process and allow it to be on the May 6th ballot as a special election, despite the city of San Antonio's failure to adhere by the election code. So what we're left with is a Proposition A. And so this is a ballot measure election. We will mention briefly about the mayor and city council, to the extent that every race for mayor and city council, the mayor and 10 city council positions are all up for election. They're all on the ballot. And I encourage you to look into the candidates and see if there's not an opportunity for you to learn more about them. You can go to SanAntonioFamilyAssociation.com for that information, as well as TexasFamilyAction.com. But I will tell you that all the incumbents participated directly or indirectly in the inclusion of this proposition on the ballot. Or say again, all the incumbents that are running for re-election participated directly in the inclusion of this proposition on the ballot, meaning they voted for it or walked out and didn't represent their constituents and allowed it to be on the ballot. So know that all incumbents are guilty for having this on the ballot. So before we go any further, what I'd like to do is lead it as we do all of our events, is begin in prayer. And if you would, let us pray together. triune God, to pour His grace upon us, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We stand before you, Holy Spirit, conscious of our sinfulness, but aware that we gather in your name. Come to us, remain with us, and enlighten our hearts. Give us light and strength to know your will, to make it our own, and to live it in our lives. Guide us by your wisdom, support us by your power, for you are God, sharing the glory of Father and Son. You desire justice for all, enable us to uphold the rights of others. Do not allow us to be misled by ignorance, or corrupted by fear or favor. Unite us to yourself in the bond of love, and keep us faithful to all that is true. As we gather in your name, may we temper justice with love, so that all our decisions may be pleasing to you, and earn the reward promised to good and faithful servants. We ask this of you who live and reign with the Father and the Son, one God, forever and ever. Amen. And if you would remain standing, and we're going to go and lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Bob, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and just for your reference, the Texas Pledge, if you don't know it, is at the bottom of this page right here, you can see. So when Bob gets to that, he would lead us in the pledges.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas pledge.
Honor to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, Bob. Gomez.
Sir.
So we're blessed tonight to have a man come visit with us and share with us not only from his experience as a veteran, but of the military, but a veteran of the police force. And Mr. David Moore and I became fast friends in 2021 in fighting Proposition B on the 2021 ballot, which sought to defund police. And in doing that, in seeking to defund the police, we went to the Christian community. We visited pastors of all different communities, from priests to Baptist pastors to non-denomination pastors. We even had a historic pastors' press conference in April of 2021, which included representatives from the Archdiocese of San Antonio, the Christian community, non-Catholic Christian community, and then also from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints were also represented as well. So we had a broad spectrum of people that believed in God, that came together to share how important it was and how it was an individual right to be able to group together through associations, a right of association. The Catechism of the Catholic Church is very clear that people have a right to come together, to learn from each other, to work together, to further advance what it is good for humanity. And so that was an attack on the right of associations. And so, thanks by the grace of God, and thanks be to God, the people voted and defeated Proposition B. Not by much, 52 to 48%, but in large part, this gentleman right here, retired police officer David Moore, had a lot to do with the defeat of that. And so we are privileged to have him after many years of service on the police force. He's got a wealth of knowledge on that. I want to take a real quick step just to acknowledge, do we have the elected officials in the room just to acknowledge you? You are all special guests. And more special than anybody elected because they're our servants, are they not? And elected to represent each of us. And we want to remind them of that. But also, do we have anybody that is, I want you to know, if anybody is running for office here that happens to be here, I want to acknowledge them and their presence. All right, Robert Flores, running for District 10. And thank you for being here. And so we welcome anybody we've had. Back in 2020, we had a candidate forum here at St. Mark's Parish for Bexar County Commissioners Precinct 3, and invited all the candidates, and they all came. And save one that didn't come, but all the rest of them came. We had a great candidate forum here on the grounds of St. Mark's Parish, and it was great to do so. I want to thank the candidates for their courage to step out and be willing to represent the people, because it's a humbling position in many ways, especially running for office. And very humbling, and it takes a lot of valiant courage and perseverance. So thank you for doing that. I think we just had one more candidate for office walk in, and you voted Jared Littman, running for City Council District 9. So make sure that just want to acknowledge them, and if you get a chance to visit them, that'd be great. If any other candidates show up, we'll be glad to do that. And it's open to any of them that want to show up. So back to our presentation. Let us remember that San Antonio is a Christian city. We have to defend it from becoming a criminal sanctuary at this point. Yeah. And so let us welcome up Mr. David Moore, who is going to share with us a wealth of experience and over the next 20 minutes. And then we will, I'll come back and I'm going to give you a different version about how Proposition A relates to the Ten Commandments. So come on up, David Moore, retired police officer.
Since I first learned about the justice policy back in October, I've been working on this thing. It is the single longest, most detailed, multi-proposition or subject that has ever been presented in the state of Texas as a vote to change the city charter. It violates everything from the state constitution, the state bill of rights, ethics, election codes, local government code, penal code, code of criminal procedure. The list goes on. It is the single most destructive measure that I have described as a bomb that would implode the city of San Antonio. And we have until May 6th to disarm it. Now, there's a number of measures on it. Oh, great. We've got a PowerPoint up. So there's a number of measures on it.
You have to point it at the computer that's going to change it, not the screen.
I'm sorry?
We have to start the presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You should be able to answer.
I think you pointed at the computer, not the screen. Huh?
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Should be close enough.
Petition to amend the city charter, our foundation for our government, the way our system works. The measure was presented by an organization called Act 4SA, which is built on the bones of Fix SAPD, which was the organization that brought the defunding the police back in 21. However, this time, they came out and brought in their A game. Let me back up a little bit here. Well, it's going to run through. They brought in their A team. They brought in paid political activists. And they brought on board an organization called Ground Game Texas out of Austin. Their political director is a second-generation liberal attorney from California. And he wrote this policy. It's 13 pages long, 3,790, 14 different sections, and each one has multiple subjects that need to be examined. They've used marketing techniques, trigger words, headlines to promote this program. They've put measures on the program, such as decriminalizing marijuana and decriminalizing abortion, in order to entice people to vote. They wanted this measure to go in as one giant package, because they're hoping that people will find something within it that they like and they vote for it because of that issue, and it will carry the entire package. That in itself is a violation of both state law and our own current city charter. But our city council chose to ignore the law, which is exactly what this policy does. It ignores the law, doesn't do anything other than to decide this is a law we're not going to obey, so we're not going to enforce it. Prime example is the marijuana law. And under their proposal, anything under 4 ounces, an individual will not be arrested, will not be prosecuted, nothing will be done to him. At the best, the officer will be able to seize the marijuana, but they've written into a policy that they are not going to be able to prove that it's marijuana because they are going to deny the city the ability to buy test kits to verify that it is an illegal substance. Wow. So anything under 4 ounces is going to be able, walk around. I wrote an article here the other day. I walked into a Chevron. Homeless person was sitting at the front, smoking a joint, having a good day. That's going to happen. Parks, anywhere that they can smoke. We have laws that said anyone under 21 can't purchase or possess cigarettes. This measure will allow anyone, any age, to possess and use marijuana within the city limits of San Antonio without worrying about being arrested. Now, they're going to say it's because they want to legalize marijuana. Well, it doesn't legalize. They use the phrase decriminalize. Well, the only way you can decriminalize something is you change the law, and the law can only be changed by legislative body. That's in our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. It was enacted by legislature, it can only be changed by legislature. This policy just said we're just not going to enforce it. We're going to ignore it. Back in the 60s, we call that civil disobedience. Well, this is criminal disobedience. The other thing about it is they don't tell you is that 4 ounces has to come from a larger quantity. It has to come from a pound, 10 pounds, 100 pounds, 1,000 pounds. And it's then broken down into 4 ounce packages and sold. Well, when you create a safe zone, you create a larger market. And that's what they're doing. They're creating a larger market. Just as it happened in Prohibition, we outlawed alcohol. People still bought it. Law enforcement didn't enforce it. And so we had the most dramatic crime history in our country. And organized crime flourished. Well, that's what's going to happen here. Organized crime is going to flourish because we're going to increase their market. We're going to give them a free zone to sell and their customers to use the product. And it's interesting to note that they've created a corridor because they've also passed this in 5 other cities. Austin, Elgin, San Marcos, Denton, Texas, up by Dallas, and Harker Heights and Killeen. Now, why would they do that? Well, Austin, 50,000 college students. Elgin's right outside of Austin. San Marcos, another 41,000 college students. Denton, 40,000 college students. Harker Heights and Killeen set out front, the front gate of Fort Hood, 42,000 soldiers. That's a huge market. Why target San Antonio? San Antonio is already a distribution hub for narcotics throughout the state. It comes into San Antonio and goes out from here. Right. We're just going to become the HEP distribution point for narcotics and controlled substance through Central Texas. That's the truth behind decriminalizing marijuana. I also talk about no chokeholds. Well, their response is, well, it's against policy. We want to codify no chokeholds so that it can't be changed. The policy can't be changed. What they don't tell you is it's already law. Our legislative act in 2019 passed a law that says chokeholds cannot be used except in a life or death situation. What they don't tell you is that they're changing the law. They're changing the wording of how we enforce it. They hide it in the small print. They talk about no knock warrants. Well, that is a media catchphrase, a media created term. It has no meaning whatsoever, because I guarantee you the first sound that happens when police go through a door into a search warrant is that door exploding or banging off its hinges, and it's a loud knock. And everybody coming in behind it is yelling, police, don't move. and they're in distinctive uniforms, there's no doubt that it's police coming through the door. But they want to change it. That particular section is nearly 1,000 words long. They use 50 words to ban them on warrants, and the other 900 to change search and seizure law that has taken literally decades to create from rulings all the way down from the Supreme Court of the United States down to our local magistrate. But in 900 words, they're going to change it. One of the changes that they make is that search warrants won't be allowed where children, elderly, or disabled people are present.
Oh, get me up, please.
Except under extreme circumstances. Well, if I'm running a criminal operation, I'm going to run a daycare there too, or an outlaw time. I'm going to make sure that there's someone present so that they cannot conduct a warrant. They talk about warrants in regards to there must be extenuating circumstance of life or death. Well, the way they've written it, Uvalde would have had to park it for a lot longer than they did, write up a warrant, find a judge, get that judge to understand it, issue the warrant, and then go back and execute it, because they don't allow warrant searches unless there is extreme life or death situation. And then they have to prove it by videotape and documentation to the judge before they can ask the judge to sign the warrant.
Question. So if there is a active shooter on the school grounds,
Well, that's where they don't understand the law. Because in that situation, it's called exigent circumstances. In other words, the crime is happening right there. And to delay to go get a warrant will allow the crime to continue or evidence of that crime to be destroyed or lost. Okay? So in exigent circumstances, we don't need a warrant. We can conduct a warrantless search. But they take that ability out by this policy.
so in other words, basically, they will not be able to.
Not San Antonio Police, county will, state will, but not San Antonio Police, and I'll expand on that in a minute.
Okay.
The most important thing that everybody seems to realize is damaging is the cite and release portion. Now, the way Act 4SA presents it, you would think they created it. Well, they didn't. It's been around since 1967. In 1987, it was rewritten by the legislature into its current form. Now, what they want is that they want to codify the policy. Well, it's already law. What they don't tell you is they're changing the law. And what they're changing is the ability to arrest, the ability to prosecute, and identify criminals. Under the current system, if you commit a crime of theft under $750, criminal mischief, destruction of property under $750, theft of service under $750, or graffiti $2,500, and then there's a few more laws.
Question.
You cannot be arrested. The police officer will not be allowed to arrest you. Go ahead.
Suppose I go to a restaurant and I don't want to pay my bill.
Hang on now. Run right through it.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. You can't be arrested. The police officer is forbidden by our city charter from making an arrest. He is only allowed to issue a citation or a ticket or a verbal warning not to do it again. And the individual is released. Now, under the current system, you can get released under the so-called cite and release, under our laws in the state, provided you live in the county where you've been arrested, you have positive identifications such as a government driver's license, Texas-issued ID card, or a passport. Under their proposal, they're changing that. Now you will only need a utility bill, a rent agreement, a library card. I've made up my own identification. It says I'm an employee of the Brass Pro Shop. under the name Chris Kringle. And it provides the address. Under this policy, that would have to be accepted by the police officer to put on the citation for his release. That's it. Now, you can't prosecute Chris Kringle because he doesn't exist. But that's the name of the citation. So I would walk away without any action. No prosecution, no deterrent whatsoever. The same measure was passed in California in 2014 called Proposition 47. Stores from Walmart and Target all the way down, from Washington, Oregon to California, are closing because of theft. As they call it, shrinkage.
Do they have to return the goods?
Oh yeah, but like the gentleman was asking, that I walk a $600 restaurant bill. Well, I'm carrying the goods.
Yeah.
I can give it back to you, but you're not going to want it. You can't resell it. Yeah, if in the shop, no, they're going to be able to recover their property. But the fact is, you're going to catch maybe 1 or 2 out of 20. Or you're going to get situations like they have on the West Coast where 30 or 40 people run in at one time and grab as much as they can and run out. Even if they're identified at a later date, no prosecution. It is virtually a free. It also covers Class C misdemeanors, beating tongues, indecent exposure, urinating in public. For those of us old enough, Ozzy Osbourne would have been charged and locked up in jail for urinating on the Alamo. But under this program, they can't be arrested. They can't be prosecuted because you can't identify them. You can't identify someone, and that's the whole purpose of the arrest. You know, if they can't be identified, you take them in, they're identified, the judge sets a bond. And that's one thing that this policy doesn't point out. That the ticket or citation is a bond. It is your signature bond to be released from arrest. When you get stopped for a traffic violation, you get a ticket. If you refuse to sign that ticket, guess where you go? Jail. Bear County Jail. Because that citation is your bond. Well, they don't even acknowledge that. The fact that this thing was written by the attorney it's amazing that he butchered the legal system.
An attorney wrote this?
Yes, out of
Second
California.
generation.
Oh, out of California.
Yeah, out of California. Now, those are things that are going to happen because we enable those things to happen by passing this measure, by changing our city charter. Now, our city council or city attorney cannot, well, these aren't enforceable acts. Well, no, they're not. You and I can't violate them. But every police officer that wears a badge can be terminated for violating it. Because written into the policy, should a police officer not follow the policy as written, he is subject to disciplinary action. Suspension, loss of pay, loss of time in service. He could even be terminated. Folks, we got less than 2,400 officers covering, in the metro area, 2.4 million people. That's not enough, and we're going to fire them because they don't obey the law. We're going to fire them. That's ridiculous. This policy puts San Antonio in a position of enabling people to commit crimes and get away with it. Now, the underlying purpose why City Council initially supported this endeavor is the Justice Director. They want access to public safety funds. City budget has used up everything that they could to fund tax exempt and social programs that since '64 have promised the world but produced nothing. We spent over $25 million last year on homeless, between Haven of Hope, the hotels that we lease, the non-tax exempt organizations that we pay to run those organizations, and then the immigration center that we've now established. That's what and our homeless population, our immigration, it's getting worse. But they need more money. They need more money to go to these nonprofits who can divert their money to PAC funds who support candidates. And that's what they're trying to do, because the Justice Director will be the second most powerful individual in the city, because he will have control over the largest portion of our city budget, public safety. He will direct it, he will conduct it, he will set policy, he will set what's good. He can divert funds from it to another organization. And he answers only to the mayor and city council. Pretty important. Doesn't even have to go through the city manager, who is ultimately the person who's supposed to run the city. He bypasses him. So it's very important that he be an knowledgeable man. You would think that they would want somebody intelligent and capable and trained. Well, the qualifications for this position is that he has no qualifications. And he can have no training in law enforcement, the law, public safety, procedures. He can have no association, past, present, or future with law enforcement, nor commercial or business connection to law enforcement. Absolutely no qualifications at all. His knowledge of law enforcement comes from television. And he is appointed by city council and the mayor. If that's not a political appointment, I don't know what is. Is that not a puppet? I don't know what is. They want access to the funds. This will enable them to strip public safety funds and promote programs like Work SA, which hasn't even turned 200 out of the 2,000 that we spent $22 billion or $22 million on.
So I hear you saying that this is just organized crime.
And in essence, it is.
Attempting to get the citizens to vote for organized crime.
It's not just voting for organized crime. It's voting for procedures that prevent our law enforcement officers to do their job. Even city council, when this measure was presented to them, they should have said, you didn't do it right, go back, do it right, and bring it back to us. Because they have, the measure on the ballot is 479 words long, one paragraph, one single sentence. That's how it's going to appear on the ballot.
Right.
City council, the state says that each proposition has to be a single subject, and that each single proposition has to have been approved by petition. They got one position for a 13-page policy. And it doesn't, it was against the law. Our city council should have said, sorry, you did not follow the law, go back, do it right, bring it back to us. They didn't. They chose to take the same way this policy is going to take and pick and choose what laws we're going to obey and which ones we're not. And they voted for it.
You know, I just looked yesterday and I found a sample ballot, and a lot of the language that you object to is sitting there right in the ballot. Now it's condensed and it's dense to get through. But if all the churches just made their parishioners read the ballot, nothing else. I didn't even have to have a conversation like
I
this.
bet I've read it 50 times.
Yeah.
About as it's going to appear.
Yeah.
And
On its face,
it's impossible to read 479 words, single paragraph, single sentence, and understand what is being said. And that's the whole purpose that the law says it has to be single subject propositions, so that people can read it and understand that particular problem. But they wanted this thing to go in as a package because there's going to be an individual, I want to decriminalize marijuana, I want to legalize it. That's what they're going to understand, because they're going to believe the snake oil salesman on the back of his wagon trying to sell you medicine, and they're not going to understand it, and they're going to vote for it, and it's going to pass the entire thing.
well, I think that the issue is that I think everybody in this room is against Prop A, be my guess.
And I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah, and so the issue is that the turnout for these type of midterm city council elections is notoriously low. The Christian community, if it would rise up and do its job and bring heaven on earth by being citizens that get out and vote, rather than sit at home saying someone else is going to do it. If good people do nothing, evil wins.
Right.
Exactly.
And what I've been talking about for the last several minutes is what I started talking about back in October. But here in the last week or so, I've changed up what I talk about, because I talk about we've got to get out the vote. That's
How
the
do we
first
do
thing.
that? How do we do that?
And I'm going to talk to you about that.
Good.
There's 10 of you here. You, or 10, whatever. Go through your contact list, or if you're old like me, go through your Rolodex. Make a list of the people that you know, your family, your friends, your business associates. And instead of watching TV one night this week, because early voting starts Monday, call them. Convince them to vote against Proposition A. And when you've done that, check them off. And then you go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. You give me 10, give me 20 people that will commit to you that they will vote, they will go to the polls, they will vote against Proposition A. You do that. Ask them to do the same. I founded and write political commentary for a Facebook organization called Unite San Antonio. We've got 3,500 members. I've asked them to do the same thing. If I get 10 out of them, that's 35,000 signature votes. That's the way we're going to beat it. That's the way we beat Proposition B in 2021.
Barely.
Well, barely beat it, but the win is the win. I don't care. I don't care if we win by one vote,
Yeah.
If we win.
as long as we win.
So this is just San Antonio, though.
This
It's not
is
Barry
strictly
County.
San Antonio.
So Hollywood Park.
No.
Not Castle
Although they
Hills.
will be affected by it, they cannot vote in it.
It's terrible.
Does that include Castle Hills too?
They cannot vote on it. They'll be affected by it because of what happens in San Antonio affects these smaller communities, but they will not be allowed to vote for it. But that doesn't mean you don't know people who live in San Antonio. Call them. Give me an hour on the phone talking to 10 people, getting commitments from them. Then wait 1 week and call them back. Did you go vote? If they say yes, check them off. If they say no, then read them the Riot Act, tell them to get out there and vote, because that's the only way we've got to get people to vote.
So I think what brought me here is the fact that the people that I've been talking to, who already said they already were voting against Prop A, are now saying, oh really, I don't know if it's necessary to go at all because the mayor came out against Prop A. And I said, if you believe the mayor of San Antonio, Texas, you have really lost it.
I'm going to
He
make a
doesn't have
statement. I'm going to make a
one
statement
iota
that
of
clarify
integrity.
that whole thing with you. From October until now, I've been saying that it was going to take big business to turn this thing.
Yes.
Walmart, Targets,
HEB.
HEB's totally lost.
Yes,
Well,
they are.
they might steal.
But
build a
it was
road.
going to take investors, the Chamber of Commerce was going to have to rally their money and their influence and stop this thing. And it was amazing that the day that and Sarah and Andretti held a reception fundraiser against Prop A that evening at 5 o'clock.
The mayor made
Nuremberg
his
says,
assignment.
I'm against Prop A.
That's right.
And since then, every city councilman, with the exception of 2, have come out against Prop A.
Oh, bull. Liar.
I still say they need to go because they flip-flop. They go where the money is and they're going after the money because big business told them, you get your head straight. If you want a future in politics,
Yes.
you better work
That's
against it.
exactly.
And that is the sole reason Nuremberg and the rest of the city council flopped.
Aren't they the ones that did this?
Yes, they are. They're the ones that did it. They made it, they swore to you when they took office. They took an oath of office to uphold the laws of the state of Texas, the city of San Antonio, and they violated that oath when they passed this. And they did it on the belief that they were going to get money out of it when the justice director dragged the money out of public safety. And then when Chamber of Commerce, all the big businesses, and Dreddy and Ciro came out and says, now they're all flipped. They have no loyalty except in themselves. They do not represent the city. That
No,
is,
they don't.
as I wrote in an article, it's time for them to go.
Bye-bye.
I don't care if we elect Mickey Mouse to their district. They
Do a better
need to
job.
go.
So, how do we get rid of this justice director?
We vote this down. This policy.
Is he still in power then?
No, he's not in power. He's not even created yet.
He's in the bill.
He will only be part of the
That he
creation
is
if
part
this
of
passes.
this charter amendment.
I got it.
If it fails, he never
He
exists.
never exists.
If it passes, well, Austin developed one, right off the bat, it cost him $4 million. That's what he started off with. It's ridiculous. This is nothing but criminality taking advantage.
Do you know which woke people in this town are interested in this position? Because they would be pushing it.
I'm sure that they've already probably slated some, but they're gonna keep it quiet because they don't want his non-qualifications, you know,
To
in his
be
political activity.
plastered. Yeah.
You know, hell, it could be Castro's mother, you know, a declared communist.
Sure, she
Could
could
be
be.
named the justice director,
I did not know she had declared it, but I knew that they were.
okay? I mean, she's not running for council, well, maybe she's holding out for justice director.
Maybe so.
Can you imagine what would happen in this city if Castro's got a hold of the justice director?
I already know what's
Oh,
happening.
no,
It's
we know.
already gone down because of that.
This measure has, so I'm asking you to do just what? Contact your family, your friends, convince them, get a commitment from them, and then follow up on it. Now, one other thing, if you go to Facebook, like San Antonio, there is a flyer there that details a lot of the things about this.
Dave.
Okay, details a lot of things about this. Copy it, print it up. It's legal size, it's 8 by 14.
I'm not on Facebook.
I'll get you a copy.
Oh, well, yeah, I can give you a link where you can do it from the internet. You don't have to be on Facebook. But print it up. Now, these signs and everything, they're great. I love this. I would love to see one in every yard, but they're expensive. But printing up 10, 20 copies of this handout on your home computer, for you to carry around when you go to a store, give it to the owner or the manager and ask him to put it up by the door. When you go out to dinner and go to a restaurant, hand it to the manager or the owner and say, put it upside your door because you're going to be affected by this.
Absolutely.
This thing is going to shut you down. That's it. It's very simple. We've got to get the word out. And it's a way that you, with a little, you know, $10 and a little bit of time. I can't, we got people out there block walking, phone banks. I can't block walk. And I don't have the time because of my speaking engagements to do phone banking. And so if I can't do it, I can't expect y'all to do it. But I can ask you to give me an hour on the phone with your family, your friends, and your business associates. And get me 10, 20, and get them to do the same. That's how simple. And that will start the ball rolling. We've got to get the vote out. We've got to get the vote out to vote against Prop A. If we don't, the city will implode. California passed theirs in 2014. It is still enacted. They still have not fixed it. Last year, since I read, 500,000 people left California for Texas. We're projected within the next 5 years to break 3 million metro. When I moved here in 1982, we hadn't even reached 1 million. Remarkably enough, we had just over 1,950 officers. We've progressed to just, 2,376 officers is what the site says today. For almost 3 million people.
Has there been any conversation, and people are asking questions, I'm finding going door to door with the verbiage, yes versus for, no versus against?
Under state law, the verbiage has to be yes, meaning for, or against, meaning no.
So they're gonna see for and against.
That's all, no, they're going to see yes or against. That's the verbiage.
Okay.
If you vote yes, you're in favor of it, or you can vote against. And we want to push that, vote against.
So
We
in
say
other words,
no,
you can't
vote
vote
no, which is the same thing as voting against. You know, we want this thing shut down.
Just against, that people don't get caught off guard when they don't see the word no on.
Well,
it.
that's what I was wondering, because all the signs,
Well-
even the sign I was given says vote no.
Yeah, and it's been back and forth. That sometimes say vote no, sometimes say against. Just get across to the people. Whether you understand voting no or whether you understand voting yes, vote the negative of the proposition. Vote against.
Against.
Negative.
Okay? A no vote is against is against. Don't vote yes. And if you vote yes, you're going to vote for it.
I'll vote for it.
All right, well, Patrick's trying to get me off because he wants to say a few things.
Is there anything you
If
want
there's any questions, I'll be around and be glad to answer them. Oh, one other thing. Decriminalizing marijuana. It is going to make San Antonio criminal.
Yep.
For one reason. Local Government Code 370.003 says every municipality, every county sheriff, every chief of police, every sheriff's department, every police department in the state of Texas will enforce the state drug laws to the fullest without question.
Okay, so I have a question.
Okay?
How can we do this then? If
Do-
the state law states this thing,
Because we can't. Because what's going to happen is the Attorney General has already sued the city once over
Yes.
McManus not following state law. Cost us nearly $3 million in attorney fees and a $300,000 judgment. Bell County has brought lawsuit against Killeen for passage of this of the decriminalizing marijuana. Virtually, what it comes down to is we're going to pay out of our tax dollars to defend and to defeat the illegal measures that we're passing. We're cutting our nose off in spite of our face. But this is what these outside northern West Coast radical extremists are trying to do here in the state of Texas.
and what is the purpose? What is their bottom line?
They want to
Change
change
it
the
to a
country.
blue state.
They want, they don't say a lot. You know, they'll put up there, like you saw earlier, decriminalizing marijuana, that it's on their website, but it has no context, it has no linkage, you know, it doesn't support, it just makes the statement, it's the headline. They haven't come out, other than one time I read, where they wanted to change the social structure and dynamics of the community. They want to change our way of life. And let's face it, folks, we're of the age where we watched Marshall Dillon coming into town and he brought law and order and he changed everything. You ever think about what that phrase means? Laws are designed to protect our way of life and to protect ourselves from those who want to harm us and take advantage of us. And with those laws, it brings order. Order brings schools, churches, prosperity, business. In the absence of laws, we have chaos. And that's what they want.
They create the problem, and then they'll tell you they have the solution.
And that's how it keeps them in business.
They don't have the solution anymore.
They'll tell you.
They can't even answer the right question.
No.
They tell you they do. They don't. They
Well, they
don't.
can't even show you. They can't. You know, they talk about it being racist. Well, I can show you documentation that the city has gotten from national accredited doctors and organizations who have come in and studied the San Antonio Police Department and have said the San Antonio Police Department, park rangers, airport police do not discriminate against anyone in their enforcement of the law. And that was done 3 years ago. But they're going to make a statement that says, yeah, it's racist.
But that's all it takes though, is because that's
Because,
the key
and
line.
again, it goes back to that used car salesman. Great deal. In 1999, it was only driven by grandma to Sunday school, only $5,000. They put the banner up, they put the headlines up, they put the catchphrase and the trigger words, and they want these people to believe it because they count on people not researching. They count on people buying the charlatan marketing techniques. And you've got to educate your friends, your family, your business associates that it's in the fine print and we get screwed, folks.
Last question, Dave.
Sure.
As a retired police officer, you're still in the force, and this went into effect. How would that impact you as a policeman?
I would put my retirement papers in immediately.
Which is exactly what we can expect to happen.
Well, right now,
That's what they-
Portland is offering a $30,000 signing bonus
Saw that.
to go to work for Portland PD.
Nobody wants to work.
Nobody. Dallas is paying $20,000 a year for 2 years for a retention bonus for their senior officers to keep them from retiring. While I was on the police department, they would hold application testing, and they had to hold it at Henry B. Gonzalez because they had 10,000 people applying for jobs with the San Antonio Police Department. They can't get anyone to apply.
No.
Nobody wants to be a cop nowadays.
Do you blame them?
No, I don't.
I don't.
All right? And it takes
Why, thank you.
It takes 5 years to get an officer on the street where he can work effectively on his own. It takes 6 months in the academy, another year and a half on probation under the supervision of a field training officer or a sergeant before he is ever turned loose. We can't put 200 officers on the street in a year. We're 1,000 officers short. We couldn't possibly put that many officers on the force in the next 10 years. They can do 100, maybe 150, but that's the max.
So the last question is, do you think that what we're dealing with in the United States is so much apathy from people who are just trying to live their lives and do their businesses and take care of their children and all of this, that this all goes right over their heads?
Since I was a kid, I've always heard, we don't talk politics, we don't talk religion at home.
Yep.
Well, that's got kind of a screeching halt.
It
We
does.
need to talk religion. We need to talk politics. That's the two most important subjects in our country right now, politics and religion. And if we don't start talking about it,
Me too.
then we're destined to fall. We're destined to crumble. And socialism does not work. Communism does not work.
Never has.
I mean, look at it. Russia, the largest, most powerful communist country in the nation, their government did not last a year or 100 years. We're over 200 years old and we're still growing strong. But organizations like Act 4 and the Socialists of San Antonio want to do away with the constitutional republic and capitalism. That's their objective. And they are out there with money and in force. The Democratic Party, I didn't want this thing to be a political, Republican against Democrat. The Democrats did. They came out and endorsed the justice policy, the Proposition A. And they are funding the passage of it. This is serious, but it's going to affect our entire state. It's going to affect our entire life. I'm probably not going to be around to see the damage that it's going to cause. But my kids and my grandkids are. And it's like I was telling some kids I was talking to in their 20s. So look, what I'm doing now is I'm just laying the foundation for you to make the changes. But if you don't get involved, it's not going to change. Hold my help. Get out there. Give me my $10.
Thank you,
Please.
Officer.
Thank you, David.
Oh, he was gonna give us the link for those of us who do not have Facebook. Could you do that,
Yeah,
Officer Moore?
in fact, I'll get some business cards. I'll write it on the back.
Thank you, that would be helpful. These old people stay away from Facebook, at least I.
Let's don't talk about old people.
I got on when he.
Well, you're very active on it, I'm.
If you want to know what the problem is,
I'd like to share with y'all
When Mark Zuckerberg decided to interfere in the 2020 election.
some of the language, about language
I'm not gonna support
that says here, I don't want to read all of it, but I want to read the first part of it, because as Dave said, it's over 400 words. It's supposed to be a single measure ballot election. City of San Antonio, Proposition A. Shall the city charter be amended to include a justice policy under which the city of San Antonio will, quote, use its available resources and authority to accomplish 3 goals of paramount importance. Right there that tells you it's not a single issue. 3 goals of paramount importance. First, to reduce the city's contribution to mass incarceration. Second, to mitigate racially discriminatory law enforcement practices. And third, to save scarce public resources for greater public needs, and to reduce unnecessary arrests and save scarce public resources through a comprehensive set of reforms, including ending enforcement of low-level marijuana possession by prohibiting police officers from issuing citations or make arrests for Class A or Class B misdemeanors, possession of marijuana offenses. Sorry, my son's calling me. And except in limited circumstances, prohibiting the enforcement of abortion crimes to promote the reproductive health, safety, and privacy of all residents, and stating that police officers shall not investigate, make arrests, or otherwise enforce any alleged criminal abortion except in limited circumstances, banning no-knock warrants by stating that police officers shall not obtain a no-knock search warrant, nor shall they participate in serving a no-knock search warrant with other law enforcement agencies, and creating additional policies concerning the issuing of warrants. Banning chokeholds with no exceptions, requiring police officers to issue citations instead of making arrests for low-level nonviolent crimes, defined as possession of controlled substances less than 4 ounces, penalty group 2A, synthetic cannabinoids, Class A or B misdemeanors under Texas Health and Safety Code, driving while license invalid, Class A or B misdemeanor under Texas Transportation Code, theft of property less than $750, Class B misdemeanor under Texas Penalty Code, theft of service less than $750, Class B misdemeanor under Texas Penal Code, contraband in a correctional facility, Class B misdemeanor under Texas Penal Code, graffiti with damage less than $2,500, Class A or B misdemeanor under Texas Penal Code, criminal mischief with damage less than $750, Class B misdemeanor under Texas Penal Code, and all Class C misdemeanors except Class C public intoxication, which shall be addressed in accordance with the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, Section 14.031, and requiring the City of San Antonio Council to appoint and provide resources to a Justice Director with no previous experience in law enforcement, who will be charged with fulfilling the justice policy by providing a justice impact statement before any City Council vote affecting the justice policy, and meeting quarterly with community stakeholders to discuss the development of policies, procedures, and practices related to the justice policy in open meetings, question mark. Did you get that? With punctuation, Dave was right, 479, the number of words is 431 words. And then it goes into Spanish in 2 more columns, and it does finish at the very bottom of the Spanish, for or against. And that is your ballot measure, your single issue ballot measure, so they say. And can y'all see if I'm in the camera right there?
You are.
All right, great. So what you heard there was, I'll let you see, that picture was taken here April 23rd, 2017, right outside of here on St. Mark's Parish grounds. That is a monument. You know, you can see it good? Cut off my face because I don't want to scare you. It will keep you awake though. So this marker right here is called the 10 Commandments. It's right out the door as you walk out here on St. Mark's Parish in what's called St. Francis Circle. The 10 Commandments, I think that most of you know, and this particular 10 Commandments is taken from Exodus chapter 20. And our city, as I started our conversation here, was founded with a seed of faith that germinated into a municipality on May 1st, 1718. And now, 305 years later, we are facing the demoralization, the degradation of our very city, the city of St. Anthony. Somebody said something about apathy. You're right. It is about apathy. But that apathy has grown to atrophy. Just a few months ago, my youngest son, Michael, antagonized me or did something like that, and we're playing around, and so I take out running after him. I pull both my hamstrings in running after him. And actually I was in pain and everything. He goes, what's wrong? What's wrong? I said, I just proved that atrophy had set in. And from a lack of physical activity, that's apathy that grows into atrophy. We don't use muscles, we lose them. Is that right? Not right? And so in this case, we have found in our society that we have taken and not used the muscles of the Ten Commandments. So what I want to do with you is share with you over the next 10 minutes what is so great about God's law and how it relates to Proposition A. Remember that when God gave the Ten Commandments, He was leading the people of Israel out of Egypt, right? And He's trying to get Egypt out of the Israelites. And they're at Mount Sinai, and they had started participating in debauchery, all sorts of lewd and crude behavior, and it was offensive to God and demoralizing to themselves. They had forgotten that they were God's people. And so He engraved in 2 tablets for Moses to take down. And He took them down and destroyed the golden calf with them, so as it goes in the Bible. And you take that time from now and to Jesus' time, and then now from that time, 1990 years from the crucifixion of our Lord, 1990 years later, we're now faced with, in the city of San Antonio, May 6, 2023, a fundamental transformation of the city of San Antonio. That's what it's about. Somebody said, what is this about? This is about a fundamental transformation of our Christian community. Yes, Judeo-Christian principles. This obviously was given to the Jewish people. And so I want to talk to you real quick about the Ten Commandments. So if we imagine a river, this city was founded on a river, right? San Antonio de Valero. So imagine the banks of a river. Instead of going like this, I'm going to just take it to you, and the bank of the river is over here, left bank, right bank, and our bottom bank and top bank. And this river is our life. The bottom bank here, right here, is the Ten Commandments. The top bank right here, if you saw on the back side of this monument right here, you'd see the Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5. What we're called to do as God-fearing, God-loving people, we're called to live within a minimum of the Ten Commandments and a maximum of the Beatitudes. So if we break the minimum, we're in a state of mortal jeopardy. We're not in a state of grace anymore. And we're called to strive for the Beatitudes. If you're hitting the Beatitudes and behaving that way, then you're hitting heaven. And so I encourage you to think of it as the banks of a river. That we're called as Christians to navigate those waters, to jive and come about, in sailor language, to navigate the waters of life. And so we're called to be in that banks of a river. We're not called to be on the sidelines, on either side, in this life. Obviously, we want to pierce heaven and be received into heaven. But in this life, on this earth, we want to be on the bank, between the banks of the river, tacking, jiving, and coming about, and navigating the rivers, the treacherous waters. The minimums are the Ten Commandments. So if we break the minimums, we're harming someone else, we're harming ourselves, we're dishonoring God. So who knows what the fifth commandment is? If you can read it up here, it's pretty easy. Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Who knows what the fifth commandment is? Thou shalt not kill. Thank you, Kathy. Thou shalt not kill. This was sold, this Proposition A, when it was formerly called the justice policy. We call it the unjust justice policy. When it was passed under 2 things sensationalized. The decriminalization of abortion and the decriminalization of marijuana drug use. The decriminalization of abortion means the killing of someone else. The harming of a woman, the killing of a baby, the destruction of the family that hurts society. So, outright, it breaks the Fifth Commandment. If you watch the mayor's flip-flop on KSAT 12 interview, you go to SanAntonioFamilyAssociation.com/prop as in proposition and find all this information. And one of the things we have there is a video of Mayor Ron Nirenberg on KSAT 12 giving an interview about why he should change his position. And 3 times, and David's right, the downtown business community finally read the information, finally got informed about it, and said, you turned up the heat way too hot. The water's boiling, the frog's about to jump out. You need to turn it down, or we're not going to help you and give you your campaign. And so he's changed his tune publicly. But he's very clear, 3 times, for him, 3 times he came back and said the unfettered access to reproductive health care services was paramount importance to him. And what is reproductive health care services?
Abortion.
That is code word for abortion. So I want to share with you
It's not the
something
reproductive health.
that you know about. And if you haven't seen it before on our website, I'll share it with you again today. Can you see it all?
City of San Antonio, official congressional. Now that's
How about
too
that?
small, can't read it.
Okay, I'll increase it here in a minute, but I want you to see the whole thing real quick. This is dated September 19, 2019. And it says, hereby, City of San Antonio hereby presents official congratulations and recognition of the 80th anniversary of Planned Parenthood South Texas. Founded in 1939, these healthcare centers, quote, healthcare centers, operate in San Antonio, Arlington, and Brownsville, and have been providing and protecting the healthcare and information people need to plan their families and their futures. Not much alive. Their dedication to being the leading provider of, quote, reproductive health care in South Texas has not gone unnoticed and is truly worthy of commendation. So the code words, reproductive health care. City Council, City of San Antonio join you in celebrating this milestone and offer best wishes of many more years of success. Happy 80th anniversary, signed by Ron Nirenberg, Mayor. Do you need any more evidence of where he stands?
No.
We have the latest proof in his interview with KSAT 12, where he said 3 times, reproductive health care is of paramount importance to him. So right there, an outright violation, breaking the 10 Commandments, the 5th commandment of the 10 Commandments. This is not the first. I'll come to a quick history of the City of San Antonio here in a minute. But I want to go back here to the 10 Commandments, and so you can see that. What's the next commandment it breaks?
Adultery.
Say again?
Adultery.
Adultery. Well, we will get there. The 7th commandment.
Oh, I bet you're going to go 6.
Who knows the 7th commandment is? Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not steal. Dave's already covered this. Up to $750 per person per incident will have no arrest. They might have a citation, cite and release, and then the justice director comes into play that has no experience to go in and administer, quote, justice for that. $750 per person per incident. So what's the first job for most young people?
Fast food.
It's working in a restaurant.
Restaurants.
Most of them. And so a lot of times they'll carry out cash with them.
Yep.
So if somebody approaches them, they have a decent night, walking out with $300, and they go up, and that makes them more of a target for somebody going after them. Women already, young women particularly, but all women, are already on guard and concerned about walking out at the end of a long night into a dark parking lot to go to their vehicles. When they've been accosted for things for nothing, without for nothing. So now we have an added reason to make people targets Do we have a trafficking problem in the city of San Antonio?
Yes.
It's like a huge trafficking problem in the city of San Antonio. Not just international trafficking, but also domestic trafficking.
Yep.
So, seventh commandment. What's the next commandment of grace? Gabe said it a minute ago. You can create your own identification. Does that mean he's Chris Kringle? He does play the part. I've seen him in the Santa Claus outfit. He's a very good Chris Kringle Santa Claus. And so the eighth commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness. Secular terms, thou shalt not lie.
Right.
It breaks the eighth commandment. Because you can lie and get away with it. The fourth commandment it breaks openly, outright, is the 10th commandment. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. What does this do? It encourages people to covet other people's goods. If you like what somebody else has, just go take it.
Just go take it.
There's no consequence.
Yeah.
Because this unjust justice policy says that because I want David Lane's
Where it can be seen.
cane, or Dave, well, Chris Kringle wants her cane because he likes it better than his, then he's just going to go take it without repercussions. The Archbishop said 2 weeks ago in a tweet, does anybody follow him on Twitter?
No.
You should. You get a window into his thinking.
Yes.
And
I'm not on.
and I reply to him sometimes, and on that, he happened to commenting about a current issue going on that I won't go into, but one thing you did say that was right on the money is that sin fosters sin.
Yep. Yes, it does.
So if we have a Proposition A that openly, directly violates 4 commandments, 5, 7, 8, and 10, do you think the other commandments are going to be broken?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Not only does sin foster more sin, crime fosters more crime, harming individuals, hurting our community. What separates us from communist Russia?
Private property and rule of law.
Say it about.
Private property and the rule of law.
That's where you're right on track. 2 things have to exist in society. That's the good of the individual and the good of the community. Like 2 lungs, left and right. And in communist countries, they look over the good of the individual, skip it over completely, and they couch it all as what's good for the community.
Yep.
That is communism. And so, in communism, you don't have private property. In communism, you don't have liberties. The government takes control and possession of property and deals with it how they want to deal with it. So in this case, private property will be impacted. So I want to refer to you back up to the top of our prayer. And, pass it up. It's hard to read anyway, but I'm going to read it to you. Private property, the responsibility of the state. Economic activity, especially the activity of a marketing economy. Right here. Economic activity, especially the activity of a marketing economy, cannot be conducted in an individual, juridical, or political vacuum. On the contrary, it presupposes sure guarantees of individual freedom and private property, as well as a viable currency and efficient public services. Hence, the principal task of the state is to guarantee the security, so that those who work and produce can enjoy the fruits of their labors and thus feel encouraged to work efficiently and honestly. Another task of the state is that of overseeing and directing the exercise of human rights in the economic sector. However, the primary responsibility in this area belongs not to the state, but to individuals and to the various groups and associations which make up society. That's from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 2431. Not only does the Catholic Church say that private property is a right, but it's a duty upon the state to protect it. We see a violation not only of what Dave talked about, a violation of both the U.S. and state constitution and other state statutes and our own city charter and laws. But here, the right to private property demands be protected by the state. And here, we have a failure of the city to do that. Just so you know, where does the city derive its authority from?
voters.
Should be it from us.
It does, but it's a political subdivision of the state. The state is the basic unit of authority here in the state of Texas.
Yes, that makes
And
sense.
all authority that comes all authority the city has comes from the state, despite whether they have a city charter or not. It all comes from the state. It's time to reel in and rein in these home rule cities that have gone rogue. And we have to contact your state legislatures. Right now, there's a legislative session going on. We have a bill before the state legislature. We're trying to get passed. We're seeing the information, but we have a bill to deal with this Proposition A directly that we need to get passed at the state legislative session. The laws are in the books, but this one particularly directs to home rule cities and how they have to follow state laws in the enforcement of those laws. And it applies to all laws. So we'll give you more information on that as we go. So in breaking Exodus chapter 20, verse 13, 5th commandment, thou shalt not kill. The 7th commandment, thou shalt not steal. The 8th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness. And the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. Inevitably, people will break the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 9th commandments. I'm the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods beside me. Money becomes their God. The government is the God of itself. It's already pushed the God out. So if you didn't know, since the founding of the city of San Antonio in May 1st, 1718, the first official act, as I mentioned before, on September 15th, 2011, the city budget for 2012 included the passage of domestic partner benefits, promoting cohabitation, the first official act by the city of San Antonio under Mayor Hillary Castro. First official act to undermine marriage between a man and a woman. It quickly grew from there. Pre-K for SA in 2012. 2013, September 5th, 2013, the non-discrimination ordinance giving special class protections to people based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and lifestyles. To 2014, 2015, and the illegal 2014 and 15, the illegal zoning and favoritism given to Planned Parenthood in South Texas that allowed Planned Parenthood South Texas to build out its new ambulatory surgery center at 2140 Babcock. We filed a lawsuit against the city of San Antonio, and that culminated in the victory on December 17, 2015, the very first piece of pro-life legislation ever passed by many of you in this room that were there. And I want to thank you again for that, because what goes back to what Dave said, we have to stand up. We can no longer be apathetic.
That's right.
We can no longer let atrophy set in. We have to use our muscles. And in doing that, virtue is a muscle. And so we have to exercise fortitude. So soon after that, in 2018, in 2015, we also saw the taking over of the world mission, the 5 missions of San Antonio by UNESCO and United Nations. City and Bexar County ceded it over, the authority over those. And if you didn't know, the United Nations has issued a Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples, in which it says Christians have been enslaving the indigenous people since the time of Columbus. What happened right after that in 2018? The attacks on Columbus became even more real, and in 2020, Columbus statue was removed. Columbus Park was changed. Columbus was the most outstanding figure of the symbol of Christianity, bringing Christianity to the New World. Without Christopher Columbus, there would be no New World, not as we know it particularly now, and would not have been established. The Ten Commandments, the Constitution as we know it wouldn't be there. To now, in 2022 and 2021, we saw an attempt to defund the police. And fortunately, we were able to do that. You saw in 2019, the mayor has continued to show his favoritism to Planned Parenthood in South Texas. And just late last year, did a report with the new Planned Parenthood in South Texas director, CEO of their new facility out on the west side of San Antonio. It's about abortion rights to him, which there are no such thing. And then so we've seen a continual pushing of God out of our city government. And that is an opportunity for them to fundamentally transform us, because what happens is most people don't get involved in city elections. And so thank you for being here, and thank you for doing that, to be here for that. So these signs are available. I know they say no on them. When the ballot says against, we printed these signs up actually before it was passed, was allowed by the Texas Supreme Court to be put on the ballot, to put against. Yes, we should have known that, but sort of the slogan went with it. Anyway, you see the first one, San Antonio is a Christian city, not a criminal sanctuary, and on the back side it has vote no on Proposition A. And don't let criminals get out of jail free. And we borrow the monopoly character, and doing that to help you see that this is what we're talking about here. Crime should not pay an essay, and the city should not comply with criminals. All of them have vote no, and this is on the back side of those, and those are all available if you have an interest in them and for a donation. So, is there any questions either of Dave, Moore, or myself in regard to the justice policy? Yes, ma'am.
Does Dave have an actual concept of what our chances are for defeat? And I don't want you to be pie in the sky. I want you to tell us what you think, because everybody seems to think it's now defeated.
When we fought Proposition B in 21, I didn't think we were going to win, and I was surprised. I was happy, but I didn't have a lot of confidence. I'm in that same position now. Yes, I'm fearful that this thing is going to pass, because we have so many people that will go out and vote without being informed.
Without reading. Right.
Without reading, that will follow the headlines, that'll follow the liberal message. And so, yeah, I'm very afraid. I hope it turns out like it did in 2021, where I'm pleasantly surprised that we did win, even if it's by 3%. I don't care, as long as we win. But there's a lot of money behind this thing. There's a lot of professional organizers. They're paying $20 an hour for block walkers. They're paying $20 an hour for phone bank operators. They are putting
To support it?
to support it.
Yes.
They are putting millions of dollars into
They is
Act for SA.
Act for SA. Ground Game Texas.
Is who?
Ground Game Texas. Act for SA. TOPS, Texas Organizing Project. Black Vote Matters. The Socialist Party of the state of San Antonio.
Oh, dear God. I didn't know it.
Oh, yes.
All of these organizations are endorsing and financially assisting in passing this measure.
Okay, I tell you that, and I would agree with Dave that if we don't get down, we can defeat this. There's some good indicators that show us this is very beatable. And one of those is that you do have publicly that the mayor and city incumbents have come out against it.
I was
And
gonna ask.
they're reading the tea leaves, so they're reading the wind. And so they stuck their finger up in the wind and see which way it was blowing, because I want to remind you, on February 16th, 2023, just a month ago, 7 of them voted for us to be on the ballot.
Yep, and one more.
The mayor, city council district 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. City council district 7 had resigned and no replacement had been there yet. And city council district 8, 9, and 10 walked the vote and didn't represent their constituents at all. And so because of that, we had a unanimous vote for this to be on the ballot. All the incumbents had a direct participation in this being on the ballot. Remember that when you go without telling you how to vote, remember that all the incumbents that are there all participated in this.
Let me say this about 2021, Act 4 SA was known as Fix SAPD. They were a little bit cocky. They didn't think we could win. They thought the liberal movement in San Antonio was going to carry them. They are not that naive this time. They know they can lose.
changed their name.
They know they can lose because they've already lost once. So they're not going in it with a pie in the ice attitude.
Let me finish the statement real quick.
Can we trust the vote?
So, well, we'll get to there in a second. It's a good question. So that, the city has not told its downtown business establishment to go create a PAC, political action committee, put $1 million into it, and fund it to go promote this. And then I can tell you from a certain city councilman who said the city wants to have its own charter amendments on the ballot in November. And then you've seen the flip-flop by the mayor and all the rest of the city council that are directly responsible for this being on the ballot to begin with. And they could have upheld their oath of office and said, this is unconstitutional, it's lawlessness, we're not going to put it on the ballot. They could have chosen to do that. Instead, they rubber stamped it.
Yep.
And, but they're telling you that they want to have their own charter amendments on the ballot, November ballot, when there's going to be constitutional amendments, means that they're not in favor of it. So, except for the part where it increases government, the size of government, the size of the government. Because what happens? Socialism is the growth of government, right? And and we're facing that, a huge increase in the size of government. In 2011, how many people know what the size of the annual city budget was? $1.3 billion. How many people know what the size of the 2023 city budget is? Yes, sir.
No, I'll let you tell it.
$3.3 billion.
It's expected.
In 12 years, it's grown to $2 billion. Do you think we have a size, an increase in the size of government going on? Do you think that there's more power with the size of government as it grows? Do you think that the elected officials and the bureaucracy there like that? Absolutely do. They get to hire more people. And this Justice Director will create a whole new department of people. This is
All of this is reflected in our taxes too.
So when you don't get a tax, when you don't get a tax decrease and everything, then you know why. And so that's why they're clamoring to reduce the city's tax rate on your property, because they know, first of all, they're getting a lot more money because of property valuation. At the same time, they can look good, make a good political vote, say they're reducing your taxes, at the same time your taxes actually went up because the valuations went up so high. So it's a shell game from that standpoint. So, but all those things lead to Kathy why the tea leaves read that it's very probable that we can beat this. And I am concerned, obviously, we have to get out and do that. But the other part is, what's even more scary, is that when the state legislatures finish passing what they're going to for constitutional amendments that are going to be on the November ballot, and Act for SA goes back to the drawing board and collects another 20,000 verified signatures to put it on the ballot, it's on there with those charter amendments that most of us in this room will want to go vote for those charter amendments, those constitutional amendments. We want to go vote yes, and then there's great confusion to vote no on this, because people are trained to vote yes on these things.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's why the government, city of San Antonio, when we fought with the firemen for the 3 propositions A, B, and C in 2018, the city spent over $1.4 million in creating a PAC where they raised $1.4 million to go vote no on those things. And so we've seen that how hard it is to defeat these things. So it's going to be a grassroots effort on our side. And remember, when you go to the ballot, it's the city, the incumbents that were there that put this on there could cause you to react this way. But the good news is it hopefully will bring out more people to vote, and for people who are not the incumbents. Yes, ma'am, you got a question?
You know, one of the things I didn't talk about was abortion. And all I want to say is one thing. Homicide in the state of Texas, it reads the taking or the cause to death of a person alive or an individual. Okay? And the key word in this thing is individual, because I'm going to read to you what the definition of an individual in the state of Texas is. Well, I just say an individual is a person who is born alive or an unborn child at any stage of gestation from conception to birth. To commit murder for profit is a capital offense. Abortion in the state of Texas is a capital offense. Act 4 SA does not want the San Antonio Police Department investigating abortions. They do not want them to collect intelligence, information, and they do not want us to share that information with other agencies, nor aid other agencies in their investigations of illegal abortions. Period. They want to decriminalize murder.
Right.
Thank you for listening to us.
Hold on a second.
Oh, you got more.
So I just want to wrap up. So on that issue, on abortion, the mayor also refers to his KSAT-12 interview, that they are already doing what they want to do anyway on abortion. They passed the abortion resolution last year on August 2nd, 2022, that granted them unfettered access to abortion and promoting abortion at any point in time. That led them to pass the city's legislative agenda to the Texas legislators going on right now on November 3rd of last year, that included abortion promotion, that included decriminalization of marijuana, that included gun control, that included forcing people into electrical vehicles and otherwise going that way, in that way. So their whole progressive agenda is being paid for with your taxpayer dollars. So how important it is for you to get out and vote, not only against Proposition A, but against all the incumbents, because they passed a legislative agenda to take to the state of Texas with your taxpayer dollars, with lobbyists, city paid lobbyists, they're full-time employees, but they're lobbyists, going to the state legislature to lobby on the things that they want, which is abortion on demand, which is decriminalization of marijuana. All these things that are in here are in, if you go read the city's legislative agenda, most of them are all in there, and they're going to find a different way to do it by piecemeal here. And so that's why you can come out and flip-flop. So remember that early voting starts on Monday, April 24th, this coming Monday, goes through May 2nd, and then election day is Saturday, May 6th, always the first Saturday in May. Something that's going to be historical and monumental that's going on. We did have one. There's been a few of them throughout the course of history in the last 12 years. In 2011, Auxiliary Bishop Cantu hosted an ecumenical press conference against the domestic partner benefits that the city voted on September 15, 2011. And unfortunately, it didn't pan out that way that they wanted to. And then we held a ecumenical press conference in April of 2021 against Proposition B, against the defunded police. On this coming Monday, first day of early voting, Monday, April 24th at 1:30 p.m. at City Hall steps will be a collection of pastors across the city, and hopefully many of you and all your friends to come out and join us for an historical pastors press conference for people of goodwill of San Antonio to come out in opposition against Proposition A. So please come join us, share it, and pass it around to all your family and friends. We'll send out communications on that. But come out, and we welcome you to do that. It'll be on the steps of City Hall, on the east steps of City Hall. Just so you know, come and enjoy City Hall, because you paid $35 million for the renovation of it that finally got finished last year. And so it is very nice, and there's lots of shade cover and everything, and amongst the trees that are on the Military Plaza. So Monday, April 24th, 1:30 p.m. we will start there, and we'll have pastors across the city being there. So hopefully all the congregation will come as well. We'd like to close, if there's no other questions, then I'd like to close this in prayer, and prayer for our country, our state, our county, and our city. Mark, that you participate.
Plus sign.
How's that? So we pray for our country, our state, our county, and our city. If you will pray with me. God our Father, giver of life, we trust the United States of America, the state of Texas, the Sarah County, the city of San Antonio, your your loving care. You are the rock on which this nation was founded. You alone are the true source of our cherished rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Proclaim this land for your glory and dwell among your people. Send your spirit to touch the hearts of our nation's leaders with an intense desire to fulfill their responsibilities of protecting individuals, marriages, families, and long-term domestic prosperity. Open our public officials' minds and all people who live in America to the ineffable work of human life, to the responsibilities that accompany human freedom. Remind your people that true happiness is rooted in seeking and doing your will. Through the intercession of your Holy Spirit, grant us the courage to reject the culture of death and indifference, communism, socialism, egalitarianism, and totalitarianism, and bless us with the desire, strength, and fortitude to be courageous conduits to help bring about a new culture of life, marriage, family, and freedom. We ask for your divine assistance to help us be and remain faithful to you, and for our collective petitions to your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
On behalf of the San Antonio Family Association, I want to thank you for coming to our educational event on CoSA and how it relates to the Ten Commandments. So thank you very much for your time and attention. Please make sure you visit with the candidates who are here, who came over to say hello and introduce themselves to you. And we have to get out of here. Gary, how fast do you need everybody off premises? Right at 9 o'clock. So quickly. So if you would, have any questions, want any signs, we'll do it quickly, and then the gate's going to close here pretty soon. And remember, please check out ChristopherHall.org, ChristopherHall.org, if you would like to rent this facility, this beautiful facility. It's operated by the Nice Columbus Council 7613 in St. Mark's Parish. And for more information on this, on anything on Prop A, go to SanAntonioFamilyAssociation.com/Prop. Thank you very much. Have a great, happy Easter season. Yes, ma'am.
This will be on your website, what you
Yes, ma'am. It's on Facebook right now, or we'll transfer it over to the website and YouTube and Rumble and
Great.
everything else. Thank you all for being here. God bless you.
aware of that.